I'll just put a little lead in on here and tell them what we're doing. This is George Dingledye, Wabash Carnegie Public Library, interviewing Elbert Wibel, Wednesday, May 29th, 1974. I'm going to call you Elbert rather than Mr. Wibel, if it's all right with you.
That's the way I like it.
Yeah. Okay, the first question I'm going to ask you is when and where you were born and the date.
Well, I was born in Peru, Indiana on June the 26th, 1899.
So we're talking to you, and this coming June you'll be 75 years old.
That's right, 75.
What was your father's name?
Oliver Wibel.
Yeah, and your mother's maiden name?
Carrie Paul.
And what did your father do for a living?
My father was a cabinet maker.
And your mother?
Well, mother has been dead several years,
Yeah.
and she was just a housewife.
Yeah. Did you have any brothers or sisters?
Yes, I had 2 brothers and 1 sister.
Did you remember your grandparents when you were a little boy?
I remember my grandfather, Grandfather Wibel, and that's the only ones I can remember.
And tell me about him that you remember.
Well, he was worked around a woodworking factory most of his life, and he worked till he was pretty old, and then he had a stroke, apoplexy they called it in that days, and he couldn't even hear himself talk anymore. He was so deaf from the fall. He fell, he hit the back of his head.
Do you remember growing up in Peru as a little boy?
Well, some, not too much. I left there when I was 10 years old. I started school there.
What?
And went to the 4th grade, and then I come to Wabash to the school.
And where did you go when you came to Wabash?
Well, I went to all of them but one. That was the East Ward. I went to the Miami, the West Ward, and the Century, and the South Side school.
Why did you move around so much? Was there a reason?
Yes, my father moved around quite a bit. He was just that way. He just liked to keep things moving.
Yeah. You said your mother died when you were relatively young then?
Yes, I was 5 years old when my mother died.
Yeah. Did your father remarry?
Yes, he remarried.
Yeah. Did he have more children then?
No more.
Yeah. But so he just liked, and his profession was what? What did he do?
Well, he done woodworking work and building furniture and things like that.
Yeah. Do you remember anything about Wabash in particular that sticks out in your mind back in those days?
Well, I can remember there's been quite a change to what they were since the population has got heavier.
Yeah.
And things just about the same, I guess, now to me as it was back a few years. Only they've expanded, so things have been built up.
Yeah. Well, how far did you go in school then?
Well, I went to the 8th grade.
Yeah. And was it custom in those days just to quit school?
No, my father and mother wanted me to continue school, but I got kind of hungry for money, so I went to work.
Where?
Well, I worked at the Cardinal Cabinet Company, and I worked at several groceries around Wabash.
Yeah. How would a young boy as your age, must have been, say, 13 or 14 years old, stepping out into a factory, how was it in those days? Was it pretty hard on you? Or?
No, I had never done any real hard work, but it wasn't bad.
Yeah.
Of course, they didn't pay the money in those days as they do now.
Yeah. What kind of money did you make?
Well, I started to work down there at the Cardinal Cabinet Company for 35 cents an hour.
Yeah.
And I got married then, but I never got any more than 45 cents after I was married.
Yeah.
Boy,
that wasn't much money.
No, it wasn't.
Well, what did you do then after the Cardinal factory? You went where?
Well, after I quit the Cardinal, I went to work for Honeywell in 1926.
Yeah, 1926. And how did you happen to go to work for Honeywell?
Well, I tell you, Mr. Roby was superintendent and done all the employing at that time of new people. And he gave me a job about 3 different times, and And then I'd go back to quit, and they give me more money, and I didn't come.
Mm-hmm.
So I got laid off, and I came over, and I don't remember just what more day it was of the week, but I went up to the office, and Mr. Roby was in his office, and he seen me sitting out in the lobby there, and he came up and he says, "What do you want?" I said, "I'd like to have a job." And he says, "Well, I've hired you 3 or 4 times and you didn't show up." I said, "I'll tell you what I'll do. Mr. Roby, if you give me a job, I'll go to work right now." And that was in 1926, and I was there till I retired.
Yeah. Well, in other words, you were working for the woodworking factory, and
Yeah.
they'd keep laying you off, and you'd run over to get a job at Honeywell's. And,
Yeah.
Well, what was your first job, and how much did you get at Honeywell's then?
Well, I got 45 cents an hour, and I worked up in the OD motor department. And I'd done about everything along there, and then finally got up to the adjusting bench and inspection, and that was as far as I went. Then when we moved over in the old canal building, this was on Wabash Street.
That's where right there Data View is now, or Wabash Filing.
Yeah, that's where I started.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what were the working conditions like in those days?
Well, they were good at Honeywell. I guess they had a waiting list for people wanting to go to work.
Mm-hmm.
So that speaks a pretty doggone good name for the company.
Yeah. Now, this was either before or during the merger that they were going to have with Minneapolis Regulating?
Well, that was before the merger.
Before the merger.
They merger, I believe, in 27.
27, yes, that's right.
And it was a Honeywell Specialty Company back in 1926.
Yeah. Did you see Mark Honeywell back in the early days?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
What was your association back then?
Well, it wasn't very close, only he was a very friendly man, and he was hard to talk to, but whatever he said, why, that was it.
Yeah.
And he wasn't a bit bad to work for. He was a good man.
Yeah,
I'll say that for Mr. Honeywell.
Yeah, the men liked him.
You bet.
Yeah. How was Mr. Roby to work for us?
He was okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Kenny Roby was a dandy fellow.
Yeah. This old D motor now, was that a pretty complicated mechanism?
No, not very much, but they made several thousand of them before they quit, and I think they must have took them to Minneapolis and went to work up there.
Yeah.
But they were a nice product. It was really made well and really took the job.
Who were some of the men that you remember back from the early days when you
Oh
started?
my, I could go to naming them. I can start with, there was Mr. Roby and Mr. Honeywell and Paul Shivers and a fellow named Smith, Harry Smith, Lou Nickham, and Floyd Smilsley, Harry Pond, there was Earl Bridegroom, and I was in the D motor, and what was his? Trying to think now. Oh, there's so many of them I do remember. Was acquainted with Lem Jacobs, Sam Van Dusen, and Harold Rodable, Earl.
Well, those names will come back. They'll come back to you, so we'll get those later.
Yeah.
As I told you, I'm going to ask you things that you haven't thought about for 50 years.
That's right. That's all right.
Yeah. Was Mickey McDaniels there then?
Yes, Mickey's one of the oldest employees down there.
What was his position?
Capacity?
Yeah.
Well, I think that Mickey was in the purchasing department down there in the old days. And he just, I guess, kept the job till he retired.
Yeah. When you and I were running over these cards here, I mentioned Houston Woods. And,
yes.
And what, you had a little story or anything about Houston?
No, the only thing is that before we went to work for Honeywell, why, Houston was worked there at the old Cardinal Cabinet Company, and he just worked along the line like I did.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, he left in the early days and went to Milwaukee and then finished out his work days in Detroit.
He was still holding the position of purchase agent when I went to work for Honeywell.
Yeah. Did you, were you concerned back in those days about insurance and hospitalization and vacations and things of that nature?
Sure. I think that's natural for a fellow to feel that way.
Yeah. Was it customary at those days or not? Was it customary to have these fringe benefits or not back when you
Well,
started?
back in the old days, they didn't. I don't think they had much of that till they.
Yeah. But you would just take your pay, whatever it was, and it was all yours, wasn't it?
That's right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, that made it pretty nice, though, didn't it?
Oh yes.
Yeah. Well, what'd you do after the demotors? What was your...
Well, after the demotor, the way it was, the reason I quit demotor because they were moving quite a bit of it to Minneapolis,
Uh-huh.
and so I seen that I was going to be out of a job if I didn't get busy and look around a little. So I went down one day to the office and saw Mr. Shivers. And I told him it looked kind of bad for me up there because they was moving it all out. And I said, I wish you'd remember me if you have any opening they were just beginning to build a new industrial motor.
Uh-huh.
I said, down in the industrial department, I said, I'd appreciate it very much. He said, well, I'll see how things turn out, Wibel, and I'll let you know.
Uh-huh.
So he I see a lot of this stuff I forgot.
Mhm.
But anyway, he sent for me in a couple of 3 weeks to bring me down, and they called that the model shop then, but
Uh-huh.
it was really, it's just the model shop was part of it. And I worked in the manufacturing end of it, and building these motors. That's my job.
So then that was your job for how many years then did you do that?
Well, I imagine I worked at that about 10 or 11 years.
And that would have taken you up to the mid-30s then, or
Yeah, right around that, I imagine. Hmm.
did things slow down in the 30s?
Oh, yes, very much. Hmm.
What happened to you? Did you work all the time?
No, I worked 1 day a week, and then I worked, take the place of the night watchman when he wanted off, and
That's the only work you had?
that's all the work I had. Hmm.
Yeah.
But when they opened up and began to get busy and got some work in, why they sent for me.
Yeah. But you were happy to get the 1 day's wages?
Oh,
and,
yes, I was then.
Yeah.
Because I just newly married and had a youngster, and of course I had to get out and rake for them.
Yeah.
But you could have got help. No, they had a wonderful thing down there at Honeywell's during that depression. They put in a commissary, is that what you call it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they had all kinds of drug stuff there and food.
Mm-hmm.
And then every Friday they'd fill a bushel basket and put groceries in it and meat and flour every so often. They'd put in a sack of flour.
Yeah.
And they really tried to look after their men just as much as they could.
Did everyone get this that worked there? Did you get one too?
No, I was lucky enough to once in a while to get in and help fill the orders.
Yeah. Was this 1 day's wage enough to keep your family going?
Well, fairly so. I could get along.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Did you have another job on the side or raise a garden? Or...
No, I didn't. No, I worked at the Kroger grocery store up at town once in a while, extra,
Yeah.
and that's about the only thing I had for a livelihood besides what I could get from Honeywell's.
Yeah. What was Mr. Honeywell in evidence all during this time when they were...
Oh yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And,
They say that he helped a lot on purchasing of these groceries and things. Of course, you never heard anything about it, only you get through the grapevine, as we used to say.
yeah. Was there any hard feelings as to who worked and who didn't work in those?
I don't think so. I think they give it the best they could.
Yeah, and everyone was
Yeah.
apparently fair, as
Yeah,
they've always
that's
been.
right.
Yeah.
Trying to be good.
Yeah, that's what I've heard, that they were always extremely fair as to how you worked and how you didn't work. Well, then things started to pick up then and
Yes.
later in the 30s, and then you went back to work
I
doing
went
what?
back to work on the same job. Well, about that time, I believe the humidity controls were coming into the picture.
Uh-huh.
And I built humidity controls when they first started.
Uh-huh.
And if I remember right, Jim Ebbinghaus checked them and inspected them
Uh-huh.
and set them and everything.
Yeah.
And I worked at that for a long while. Yeah.
Do you remember then how you happened to get off humidity controls? Was it World War II was
Well,
coming?
it began to expand, see,
Yeah.
and they had, of course, began to hire girl labor in there and with them, and which they could do very nicely. There were things about it a man couldn't do, such as building hair elements and stuff like that.
Yeah. So then World War II is coming on, and
Yes.
everything's getting busier.
You bet it was busy.
Yeah.
Yes, I worked down there, and I had assistant foreman in the third floor assembly, which assembled industrial motors, humidity controls, and then we also had a part in the war work. We had a group of women there that took the parts that they what they call a black nickel plate on them, and they had to be absolutely clean, no dust. You know how it was correct they were, and I was assistant barman over that.
What factory were you in then?
I was down on Canal Street.
On Canal Street. Let's check our tape and see how you voice. What is it you remember about the war years then at Honeywell?
Well, I know it was a very, very busy place. I remember that. They was working, I believe, 3 shifts, and they hired a lot of outside labor, people, you know, to do the war work, and we were just had a lot of work, a lot of work.
Were you moving up then in the positions?
No. I still held that job till they began to. And then now I'm ahead of my story.
Go ahead.
Frank Merrick was foreman over the service department. And I told Frank sometime, I said, Frank, if you ever have an opening in there, I'd appreciate having it. And he said, okay. And when I needed another man in there, why, they gave me the job in there on service work. And I worked there till about 3 or 4 months before I retired. I was in down there about 14 or 15 years in the service department.
Was Carl Schwab in that department?
Oh, yes.
And you two got along famously?
Oh, he was a wonderful fella.
Yeah.
He's a dandy.
Yeah. During the war, did you work 7 days a week?
Sometimes I did, not always.
And they were going all out all the time.
See, they was hiring enough people they could get enough people in on these shifts to really take care of that, see. Of course, there's a lot of people that have done a lot of overtime down there, but I never did too much.
Was Mr. Honeywell still in evidence all these
Oh,
working?
yes.
Do you ever remember anything humorous that came along with Mr. Honeywell?
Well, yes, I know, but I just leave not say about certain thing that happened there because it is, you see, the first or second big order they got down there, they got what they call circular mounts for guns, heavy artillery. And they, I think it was 150 or 175 of those was to be built. So they brought some girls in, and they gave me a job of looking over them, see? And running the job, you might say, down there. And he, I don't know, he every once in a while he'd come up and sit down and have a talk with somebody, you know, he was that way. Yeah.
Did you ever do any work for him at the country club or down at the
No,
Honeywell Center?
No, never did.
Some of the others did.
Yeah, no, I never did.
How about, you must have been there when they started getting together on the union and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. You know, the first the company had their own union there, you know, the employees, and then they went into this bigger outfit.
Going back, were you active in the first union?
No, I never was.
Yeah, and then when they went to the big union, did you?
No, I didn't go there either.
Yeah, you just did your job. And,
that's right.
And
that's right.
So you would say basically then that you spent almost your whole working career would be at Honeywell.
That's right, all of it.
Yeah.
I've retired on June the 26th. 1964.
10 years ago.
10 years ago. It'll be 10 years in June.
A long time. Did you look back on that as a satisfying work career?
I was happy all the time I worked down there.
Were you?
Yes.
Do you
I
feel
liked
that?
it very much.
Yeah.
It was the kind of work I liked to do, you know.
Yeah. Did you feel that you were well paid and everything for
I
what you
figured
did?
it the best I could do, I think. I got a raise every so often, and that's all any man that was working there could expect.
Yeah. Well, that's true.
That's right.
That's very true. Well, it sounds like you were an extremely well satisfied employee.
That's right.
Well, that's
I
great.
was mighty happy at Honeywell's.
Yeah, that's great. Can you think of any unusual or outstanding events that took place at Honeywell's where you were?
No, nothing. It was, as I can remember, was outstanding.
Was the after the merger? Did you notice any difference way back in 1927?
Oh yeah, that began in 1927. Of course, things began to boom then, you know. And as far as the working conditions were good, they were good just like they always were. But they was some changes, I guess, made, but it was I liked work for Minneapolis as well as I did Honeywell.
Yeah.
They were always good to me.
I asked you about Mr. Sweat here, and before we got on the tape here, and you told me that something about Mr. Sweat that was rather interesting. I thought.
Yeah. Well, you see, I believe it was in 27. They some work done there that wasn't satisfactory on these industrial or on damper motors, but they were building a motor then, what they call a DSS, that had a gas valve on the side, and it also had the ignition and blower tracks on it, and some bad adjusting work was done on the rotary switches. So Mr. Roby sent me up to Stamford, Connecticut to take care of those that they had in stock up there and fix them up in good shape, which I did. And Mr. Roby told me when he came back from Minneapolis, he said, I talked to Harold Sweat, and he had a good word for you for what you done up at Stamford. He said he was well pleased with what I'd done. That's about it.
Yeah. Well, that was
a nice compliment.
That was a nice compliment to your ability and to your work.
That's right.
That was probably a long trip back in those days.
Well, went up there on the Pennsylvania, you know, the railroad, and it was a pretty good hop.
Yeah. Did you ever have occasion to go to Minneapolis for any reason?
No.
No other place?
No.
No other trips?
No other trips, no.
Did you follow the athletic teams of Honeywell back in those days?
No, I wasn't much on that. I had a heart trouble, see, and I didn't take much part. I did some, but not too much.
Yeah.
Back in those days, they had these department ball clubs, you know, and I played on the D-Motor department's ball club. That was the softball they played.
Well, of course, they also had a team that they used to go out in the public and play around.
Oh, yes, they did, but I never played on that.
Did you ever go watch them? Or?
Oh, yes, I went to that.
I know that Bus Martin and Smith and some of the others have mentioned their athletic ability.
Yeah.
I think it gets better every year
Yeah.
as time goes on. Yeah. Did you ever have a chance to go out and see the new factory?
No, yes, I did too. One Sunday, I think they had an open house out there, and I went out and went through it.
What did you think of that as compared to the other facilities that you used to work in on Canal Street and down on South Wabash Street?
It was all right. Yeah.
So the working facilities were good for its time where you worked.
That's right.
Well, of course, Marvel Walrod was
Yes, I remember
much
Marvel.
in evidence in all those years as the company's secretary. And well, the things. What did you think when the union came in? Were you discouraged or didn't care?
I didn't lean on either side. I was satisfied with what I was doing, and I figured I was being paid what I should get, and that was it. That's all my conditions were in working.
Yeah.
So that's why I retired that way. I just felt I didn't have nothing against either bunch of the boys that done it.
Was there much hard feeling, do you think, in the factory in those days?
Oh, maybe a little, but not enough to make it a tragic thing, you know.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Yeah, I always felt in talking to all the men that they were always proud of the quality of work that they put out and the
Yeah,
quantity.
yes,
And,
right.
over the years.
Yes,
And you're about one of the oldest employees that I've
yeah.
interviewed, other than Mickey McDaniels
Yeah.
and a couple of the others.
Mhm.
But they were always proud of the
Mhm.
quality of the workmanship that they put out. Did you remember Mr. Honeywell then in the latter days when you were working there and he was
Yes,
sort of
oh yes.
slowing down? And,
Yes,
yeah,
you could see it.
yeah.
Yeah.
After he started building the center, then did you see as much of him?
Well,
Yeah.
he spent quite a bit of time down there at the center,
Yeah.
and but I don't. I think he spends as much time up doing the company's work.
Yeah. I'm going to end this part and turn this tape over. This is end of part one. I'm going to ask you a little bit about your family also so we get this on the record. And what was your wife's maiden name?
My wife's maiden name was Mary Fireman.
And where did you meet her?
Well, we were school sweethearts, you might say, and I knew her and her family for a good many years before we even got married.
Yeah. She was from Wabash then?
Yeah, she was a Wabash girl.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And when were you married then?
Well, I was married in April 15th, 1923, or 1922.
1920. You would have been about 23 years old.
Yeah, something like that. Mm-hmm.
Almost 23 years old. And did you have children, Mr. Wibel?
I had one son.
One son.
He passed away in 1962.
Yeah, and what was his name?
Richard.
Richard. Yeah. Did he live here in town then?
No, he lived in Hays, Kansas. He was a medical technician out in Hays, Kansas, and he had three children, left three children, and he just passed out just overnight. He died. Had cerebral hemorrhage, what he had.
I'll be there. Yeah. And your wife, of course, has died.
Yeah, my wife died on January the 17th, 1968.
You have a good memory for dates.
Yes, there's some of those dates that's burned into my memory.
Yeah, I can well imagine. What, here you are, 75 in June now.
Yes.
What changes do you think have taken place in your lifetime that made a great effect on you?
Well, of course, I look at this way at my son's death and my wife's death. And then my brother died just a few years ago. But that's about it, I guess.
Well, let's talk about changes outside of your family. Was the automobile, was that something super when you saw it the first time? Or?
No. I've seen the Model Ts, for a long while. In fact, I had owned two different automobiles, and one of them was a Dodge and one was a Model T. And but of course they have advanced in their designs and work and stuff like that is lots greater and better than it was then.
Yeah. Do you remember the first radio that you heard?
Well, I guess it was my own.
It was your own?
Yeah, I bought one. And
Did you, what did you have for a hobby? Did you have any hobbies back in those years?
Well, I used to like to fish, things like that. But that's about it.
Yeah, and you just stayed at home and did your work? And
That's right.
And do you have outside interest at church or anything?
Oh yes, I belong to a Christian church, and let's see. Oh, I belong to the Knights of Pythias Lodge.
Knights of Pythias. Yeah. Hey, there's a question I wanted to ask you. When the Ku Klux Klan was going hot here in Wabash, did you ever get involved?
No, I kept away from that.
Yeah. Did you ever get asked to belong?
Oh yes, I was asked.
Often, or?
Oh, not so very often. Once or twice, I guess.
Yeah. What do you remember of the Ku Klux Klan, or do you remember much?
I don't remember very much. I know that people were scared to death for a long while, especially the Jewish people and the Negroes.
Yeah. That didn't bother you then, huh?
No.
How long have you been here at the nursing home?
Well, it'll be 3 years next January, but I really haven't been down here at the nursing home but just about 6 or 7 months. I had a trailer up here in a trailer court, and I got sick, and so they brought me down here.
Yeah. Well, you look well now. Are you?
Yes, I get along fine now.
Yeah. What was the last illness that you had? Heart? Was it your heart?
Yeah, I had some heart trouble, and I had diabetic. I'm a diabetic, and otherwise, I think I'm in pretty good health.
Yeah, you look well, and you have
Yeah.
98% of your hair.
That's right.
That's some accomplishment. I'll
Yes,
tell you.
it is.
At 75, that's and your voice is strong.
Yes, I've never lost my voice.
Yeah. Did hard physical work never bothered you?
Well, only my legs, and towards the last,
Yeah.
about the last 6, 7 months of my work there at Honeywell, I was working in the shipping department out at Bond Street. And the work was rather heavy out there on what I did. And then, but the only thing that bothered me was my legs and feet.
Did you get along with all the management that came on over the years, Mr. Roby and?
I never had no trouble with nobody that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's remarkable. I think
Yes.
that speaks well of you. Really.
Yes.
Yeah. And as I pointed out to you before, that Jane Shearer suggested I come and see you.
Well, that's fine.
And I'll call her when I get
Jane's a
back.
fine lady.
She's a nice
She
girl.
is.
Yeah, she's a nice girl. Do you have anything else you want to add for posterity?
No, I think that's about it.
Well, I certainly want to thank you for this interview
Why,
today.
sure.
And,
Thank you very much for your coming.
Yeah, well, I'm always glad to visit with you. You know, I was like,
See, I don't know who asked me. One of the boys was out from Honeywell asked me if you'd been out yet to interview me, and I said no, he hasn't. And
Yeah.
he said, well, he said if I remind him, I said I'll tell him.
Yeah.
But you
Well-
just didn't get around to it
Well,
yet.
You
You got too many.
As I say, this is either number 54 or number 55, and we just and I have a whole list of others that are coming
Sure,
on all the time
sure.
that are retiring, and I'm sure that Honeywell keeps you in touch with what's going on out there. And spent your entire working career there, and I think that's just absolutely great that you have that attitude toward the company. And I think
Yeah.
that's
Well, I always felt that if you like your work and you got a good company to work for, that's the thing to do. Stay with them, because in the long run they'll do right for you, which I haven't been mistreated whatsoever. And since I've been retired, I get a check from them every month and my Social Security. Why, it's helped to beat the band.
Yeah.
I think that was fine.
Yeah, well, as
I
I say,
appreciate them for it.
as I say, I think that speaks well for the company.
Yes, it does.
Do you have anything else about Mark Honeywell that you'd like to add while I'm talking? Or Mrs. Did you know the first Mrs. Honeywell? Mrs.
Just by sight, I never met the lady.
Yeah. And you knew the second Mrs. Honeywell?
Well, I had met her down at the banquets there at the building, you know,
Yeah.
when they have them the quarter century.
Yeah.
But she was a fine lady. I know that.
Yes. Well, good. Well, thanks again, Mr. Wibel, and I'll sign this off. George Dingle, interview.